Alrighty, we are back with episode 22 of the Creators Unplugged podcast. Welcome back, listeners. Today in the studio we have Imp0str, not Syndrome, but Imp0str.
It's kind of weird. Your studio looks like my mother's basement.
Well,
wow, this is amazing.
That's what we designed it after. So
glad it's like comfortability. Like you're like he's coming over.
We really take care of our guests here. That's all I'm saying.
I like it.
He is a streamer, a creator of Valorant, soon to be pro. Is that right? Is that what I saw?
Yeah. Something so basically, I'm replacing tens for. Oh shit, we should probably bleep that out.
Oh right, that's not. Oh sorry, it just hasn't gone out yet. I know you're just like flying under the radar, which is fine.
We haven't told tens either, so it's going to be.
I don't want him catching wind. Yeah, that checks out. Yep. Future 10 sub for Valorant, and all around just gamer, man. I've seen you many a time deep into the goon hours of the morning, streaming and playing until 3, 4, 5 a.m. But welcome to the show, man. I appreciate you being here.
I appreciate being here. Thank you for the gracious invite.
Yeah, man. It's December. You'll actually be closing out 2023. That'd be the last pod of the year.
Man, if we had done this 2 weeks later, it would have been my birthday, and I would have opened the year on my birthday.
It's the inaugural year, the launch of the pod. You're closing it out in fashion, man. But we were talking about before you're jumping on to another podcast right after this.
Oh yeah, so me and the 3, I guess, closest other gamers that I play with consistently. If anybody goes to my Twitter, they'll probably see the Cream Team used to be a thing we do every week.
Promo yourself. Sorry, drop the promo where people can find you.
Oh boy! All right, get your notepads out, ladies and gentlemen. So you can find me at Twitter and TikTok under DVoiceEho. You can find me on YouTube under Imp0str.
One more time.
I said to get your notepads ready. Right fast. On Twitter and TikTok, I am DVoiceEho.
That's DVoiceEho. Yep. For those of you at home.
That came from a Valorant name, actually. On YouTube, I am Imp0str, Imp0str. And on... There's one I'm missing. I just had it.
Twitch.
Twitch, that's it. Twitch is Imp0str. Twitch is Imp0str. Yep, that's SIMP0STR. And if you happen to be one of those people that watch Kick, I'm on there with the original name of Imp0str, IMPOSTR.
Nice. So what's the pod about?
Whatever. It's kind of just like shooting shit for an hour. Good. Whatever comes to mind. Yeah. The first one we tried to have topics, and then we're like, nah, didn't really click. And then we ended up recording the second one directly after we recorded the first one. So we just kept conversations. Yeah. We were just like, all right, we can clip that one there. We'll open the second one right now because we just weren't done talking to each other. So
how much longer did that go on for? An hour?
Yeah, we got a full another episode out of it before it was like, all right, let's play games.
And these are just the homies?
Yep. Just the closest homies. And then last week we recorded one, and it was just our most insane drunk stories.
Okay, I gotta listen to that.
And that ended up being because we did cold opens rather than intros, and we went 45 minutes into these stories before we're like, oh, by the way, if you're still here, welcome to the podcast.
But that's that's the best. Like, that's to me, the shows I listen to most are always just super conversational. And there's no rhyme or reason to it unless it's some kind of famous guest or something that's there to talk about something specific. I like the pods that you just chill in a room, put it on the background while you're doing something, working out or whatever.
Yeah.
And just feeling like you're just part of the conversation. You're just not saying anything.
It's nothing too thought provoking. Like, we're not sitting there asking you like, what are your thoughts on the alien species like 4 stars away. You just sit there listening to 4 people talk amongst themselves like you're sitting around a fire.
Right.
Just have fun with it and then going on. But that's what we do. And on YouTube, you can find us under the Creamcast.
Okay.
It was an an extension of the Cream Team. We went to the Cream Cast.
The Cream Team.
Yep.
Is it on Spotify?
Not yet. We had just discussed getting on Spotify, but it is on YouTube. At least the first 2 episodes are on YouTube. Maybe 3. Did we hit 3?
How long have you guys been doing it?
We just started like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Okay, so I read somewhere. The Creamcast pod.
Let me double check for you. Yeah.
Does it have like illustrated art? Oh, wait.
I can find it on Twitter though.
Okay.
It'll be alright.
Is it 139 subs?
That seems like a lot for us, but
is it 21 subs?
That one sounds more accurate.
Creamcast. Is it Electronic Boogaloo? Or Electric Boogaloo? Is that one of the episodes?
Is that one of our... I don't know what he titled him because I don't do the titling.
Creamcast episode 1, Let's Get Creamy. Does that sound right? Yo, where am I on the internet right now?
I'm taking
you. Is this YouTube? Dude?
I found it. Creamcast 7 subscribers. Just because it is, because I'm already subscribed. I can link that to you on Discord.
Yeah, why don't you shoot that over? Because I don't know where I'm at. Showed man, what?
I think you went too far.
I think I went too far. All right. Well, cool, man. Congrats on the launch of that. Like, that'll be part of the promos and everything as well. But I'm trying to remember when we actually met. If it was through somebody or just randomly via Twitter.
It was random, but it wasn't because I was trying to be a part of Odyssey back when that was a thing.
Oh, right.
And that's where I met you, and then we played Paladins together.
Yes. That was a good time.
Been a minute.
That Paladins run, okay. So that Paladins run was by far the biggest my stream's ever been. And then I played too much and then burned myself out and never went back.
Paladins was one of the things that initially helped get me affiliated on Twitch.
Yes, same.
I was playing that. It was 2017-ish. I was playing Paladins. I was trying to do it like competitively. This is back when they were still having their community leagues and what they could muster of esports. And I was playing that and playing Killing Floor 2. And just those two combined, I would play Paladins up until 11 p.m. midnight, and then swap over to Killing Floor 2 from like midnight till 6 a.m. And that's just how those communities worked. Killing Floor 2 was just the overnight thing that pushed everything up. It was great. Great time.
Was Paladin's peak? Like, do you think the peak for that game was 2017, 2016 in there?
Yeah. Maybe a year after.
I feel like it was at its peak when Mixer was partnered with it, maybe?
Well, there was a whole... I mean, if you look at thing, a lot of people left because they were doing their open beta patches. One that kind of killed was when they transitioned to like getting the card system and how you got the cards. And that was OB64. And like just the open beta 64 just kind of killed. I know 3 or 4 people that just flat out quit after that.
Because of the card system?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, then like it was just how it was done. Because you had to, at that time, you had to unlock the cards before you could use them. And then you had to get more of them to upgrade them. I could be mistaken and misremembering that wholly, by the way. But so don't take my word for it. But there was something about the system that they had changed, and almost nobody liked it. And that they kept numbers, but that's when things started going downhill a little bit to make it into more of a niche community, more niche than what it used to be. I still feel like Paladins is a fairly niche community. Like, you talk to people, nobody's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, no, I just play Paladins over anything." Almost nobody says that. If they have heard of Paladins, they're like, "Yeah, I just haven't played it. It just doesn't seem as fun when I can play Overwatch." And I'm like, eh.
Yeah, everyone's last scene played was 2019 or something.
Yeah,
right before. Yeah, because it's trying to remember, like, when I say like the peak of this stream, it was like the most average viewers I've ever had was playing that game, and I felt like right before I quit playing it because I burned like every time I turn on my computer, it went from like, oh man, I get to stream Paladins. It was like, oh, I have to play more Paladins today. You know, like it just kind of like killed my love for it.
Yeah, which definitely happens.
But there was this like moment, kind of like right toward the end of that little run, where I felt like I was starting to meet. Because at the higher levels, you're just playing the same people over and over.
Correct.
Because there's no one better. So you just like keep running into the same 10, 15, 30 names. And I like finally started to meet some of those people. And once I got in with that kind of like base level group, it grew super fast because then you ended up getting raids from those communities, or you start getting invites by those people who have
and that's where I met Jackson and guys like them.
Yeah, and it was super it is super neat, like what you're saying, like super niche still, even at that level, because you go, oh man, this is a big Paladin streamer, and you go, yeah, they average 50 viewers, but they're all Paladins fans, and there's like you still get people in there if you go watch. They're saying, hey, like, how do you get started in streaming? Or, hey, what's like the best build for this character? Or, it's and there's no competitive scene to my knowledge outside of independent.
Not anymore. Yeah.
I don't even does that even happen? I mean, I'm sure that's rare at this point.
I think it's all community ran stuff now.
But yeah, it's still so small. It's like it's got to be the smallest it's ever been. But they're still cranking out new heroes every other month. It feels. I'm still seeing updates all the time.
They're still adding champions. It's like I don't want to say like they still do stuff for the game, but I don't think that. I feel like they're at a state that no matter what they do, the game is not going to grow. If that makes sense, like they are keeping up with the game, but it's almost strictly for the people who have like proven that they're just not going to leave.
Right. Because I still had more fun playing Paladins than I ever did Overwatch. I like the items. I like the talent trees. I like that you could like spec a certain way, so you can play different heroes in different ways. I think it adds a lot more depth to it, in my opinion, versus Overwatch. I think Blizzard just had a horrific release and follow up with Overwatch 2, but
I mean, they also kind of dropped the ball with Diablo 4's release. I'm not gonna lie. I was so disappointed with what we got for Diablo 4.
Yeah. But to me, it feels like you get like it's easy to get caught up in over. First of all, Blizzard makes great characters. I don't care what anyone says. You can say, "Oh, it's a copy of this," or it's based off the. They make great characters across all games.
Well, it's also hard.
They have so many iconic characters.
When you're a company like Blizzard who did Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3, World of Warcraft, you're going to have a hard time thinking of new and inventive characters. Everything's going to be a copy of something at some point. But they do the best that they can with what they have to work with. I think they still do a hell of a job.
Agreed. I mean, Overwatch, the first Overwatch was Game of the Year, I believe, 2016.
It was. Yep.
So the characters are intoxicating. I think at least I got caught up in how clean the game felt. So nothing looked. I mean, the graphics I thought looked great for a hero shooter like that. The maps were always really cool, in my opinion. Just like really cool environments. So to me, it felt easy to get caught up in that. But it didn't feel like there was a lot of depth to it. It just felt very surface level.
What's worse is like the most depth I think Overwatch had to it before they started adding like the whole lore drop points in, because it took them forever to get to like lore stuff. Is how much adult content came out for Overwatch when it was released. That definitely had a big hand, like, because even if you didn't play the game, you probably saw something online about Overwatch.
Yeah, it took over.
So
it took over. And then I don't think it wasn't free to play at release, right? $60 probably.
Correct. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was $60 and.
Well, what were the other big hero shooters on the market at that point? So Paladins came out the same year.
There was one is called that attempted to, but Overwatch kind of beat it into the ground really quickly. Uh, it was called Battleborn. That was supposed to be
Battleborn.
another. Yeah, it was supposed to be another hero shooter coming out at roughly the same time. And
How'd that do?
got overshadowed. Overwatch
Yeah.
just way overshadowed. I think I, in fact, only played 2 or 3 matches of Battleborn. It wasn't bad, but then you just didn't hear anything about it. Everything went to Overwatch. It was Overwatch this, and then I found Paladins because it was free, and I didn't have. I'd let somebody borrow my copy of Overwatch, so I didn't have it with me. And I was like, "Oh, what's Paladins?" And I fell in love with Paladins for a hot few years.
Yeah, I just think I just think it has more depth as a title. I mean, I think it loses. Imagine updated graphics with Paladins. Imagine if they had brought it, into Unreal or anything other than what it is.
Yeah.
I still think it would be not winning, but competitive. When you have the World of Warcraft check in the bank every month, it's hard to compete.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, high res who was running it. I think now it's Evil Mojo that runs things.
Yeah.
I think high res still does stuff to an extent for the game, but it used to be just high res and Georgia.
Yeah, it's
Georgia
like 20
company.
miles from me.
Yeah, but it's just those guys, and when you're like two smaller companies trying to compete against,
You can't.
the people who
You can't.
created Ward, you can, yeah. Makes it very, very difficult though.
You can't. Yep.
That's a steep hill.
Yeah,
And the only reason I definitely don't disagree is because look at games right now like Lethal Company. Indie game had like 1 or 2 developers. I think it was 1. But people are going crazy for it right now.
But what's it competing against? So I think Paladins loses because it's trying to be in the same space as Overwatch.
Well,
It's
it
like Lethal
was in the same
Company.
space, yeah. Is its own standalone.
Yeah, it's
Fair
part
enough.
of these flash in the pan games. Remember like Only Up? Remember when that came out?
No,
Zero comp.
not.
You remember that?
Don't. No. What's I'm on Google right now. I'm gonna have to Google this. I don't know what that is.
Only Up, that game where you just keep jumping on stuff to try to get to the top of the puzzle.
I have not. Nope.
You never saw clips of this?
I have not. No.
What? Dude, okay, so you're like a teenager kid, and you just have all these random objects, and you just have to climb and jump to the top of the planet. But
Okay.
if you fall, like you can't glide or anything. So the way they have the map set up is if you fall at certain points, you'll fall an extremely far. Like you'll fall down.
So it's like that
losing
one game
all your
with
progress.
the like guy that's in the jar with like that fucking.
With the pickaxe.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like, have you ever heard of I think it's called Jump Night or something? That pixelated version.
Jump Night, I have seen clips of because I think it was Ludwig or XQC.
Very similar concept. Very similar concept. You're just trying to get to the top. And do you have it open? Did you open it?
I have Google open.
Okay. Yeah, and it came out, and it's extremely popular. I think because it was extremely difficult, and it became this weird thing where you're like, "Hey, did you finish it? Did you finish Only Up?" Because a bunch of like you had to say it to brag to friends or whatever. But there's another game like it. It's not competing against anything else. So you get something that is fun and well made for what it is with zero competition, and you're gonna crush. And
oh yeah, it's doing well.
So like Paladins, I just
see
it's just not going to compete against Overwatch, especially now.
Well, especially now. Oh, Paladins was out earlier than Overwatch was, and that's what it's. I always had to have that like discussion or argument with people being like, "Oh, it's an Overwatch clone." I'm like, well, I mean, did Paladins start development first or just come out first? Actually, now that I
thought it came out the same year.
Paladins.
But they both got released the same year.
Released it. Well, I don't know what they're. September 16th, 2016. Is when they officially went into open beta.
And Overwatch was also 2016.
Yeah, they went May 3rd, 2016. So their closed beta was probably out because I remember seeing people like play it like really, really early versions, like alpha versions of the game. But Overwatch came out, then this came out later in the year under beta. So,
point being, it's not this big gap that everyone wants to say that it is.
Yeah,
I love when the Overwatch stands are like, yeah, they just copied everything about it. I'm like, it's
like you realize it takes months upon like a year or two of development. So this close in release date means they didn't have time to sit there and copy, cut, paste characters.
Right.
Like that's really close.
There are some, basic gaming tropes that exist. There's always like someone with a shield,
your soldier characters,
some kind of some like super balanced guy with the gun. Like we all know those all exist. So it's not. It's when people say, "Oh, they copied." I'm like, dude, there's been a soldier guy in every single game. You're not.
Your
COD
like shooter is your COD shooter. It's because if you get one COD shooter in there, it makes it easier for people playing other shooters to come in and just be like, "Oh, I can resonate with this character really quickly." I know he's got a gun, he ADSs, he's got a grenade.
Right. And that person's there for everyone. Like that's the get started character that everyone has. It's always a basic heal. It's always like a very basic it's just balanced across the board. Every game has that. Every shooter has that. You have some kind of sniper class, and then there's always some like little creature riding a big creature controlling it or whatever, or it's like a sidekick or something.
Oh, it's got a little assassin throwing stuff at you.
Right. Little shurikens or throwing stars or some kind of poison smoke bomb thing. Like those exist in every class shooter or whatever. So hey, when people are like, "Oh man, it's exactly the same." Like, no, they're not exactly the same. It's just nobody has any original ideas. That's it. Like this is the same thing.
We get back to that point. It's like to think of original ideas anymore. It's just going to be hard because you start doing it and realize, oh, these people already did it.
Right.
Like, how can we now make it different so it doesn't look like we're just doing a one ripoff? It's like, well, give them a different element. Instead of poison, this assassin now has fire damage. Instead of like throwing shuriken, they're doing like small fireball blasts. Like, you just have to. It's going back into doing what you can with what you're given, what you can like work within the context of. Because there are some, companies that are just quick profit, like run up, start down, shut down companies. They're just, here's our money real quick. We blatantly copied.
Right.
And just got their quick buck and dipped. But it happens.
Paladin's reunion tour, January?
What?
What?
Yeah, Paladins. Are you saying that as like we play?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Again?
Don't Google
that. I was in the middle of it. I was like, wait, is he?
Yeah, you're not gonna find anything.
That's a challenge, isn't it?
Paladins. But you've been jamming on Fortnite or not Fortnite? Valorant. Valorant. Oh my gosh, dude. I had hibachi right before this. It is weighing me down. My brain's like, let's take a nap, dude.
Dude, I feel that mom's got roast and baked potatoes cooking right now.
Oh.
And I'm like, man, just don't holler when it's done because it's like done right now. And I'm like, don't holler, I gotta record, but I'll be up and smashing like 5 plates of that.
Yeah,
it's gonna be gone. But yeah, no, I mean 2024. But I've been playing Valorant here and there. I had to get out of that because when I got to a point where I was just doing so much comp, like trying to be better, that I do that and it makes me toxic. It makes me harder to play with. It makes it harder for me to play with like friends and stuff that would just want to have fun. Because then in my mindset, it's always just like, no, you're doing that wrong. Bad rotation. Quit doing that. Stop. It makes the game just less fun for me and less fun for the people I play with. So I pulled back. I expanded a little bit. Somebody bought me MW3. I played that a little bit. Played Phasmophobia. Just like every COD game that's been released.
That's what I thought, dude. That's what I fucking thought.
Look, I'm not. I do have fun with it, playing with friends. But if it wasn't bought for me, I would not have got it. The only reason I have it is because my buddy bought it for me because he didn't want to play alone.
Was nice.
Yeah. We got Lethal Company because we have it modded for bigger parties. That's always fun on the weekends. Grab a few drinks with like 5 or 6 people. And then what else have I been playing here? Naraka Blade Point. I hit from time to time, which is an interesting one actually. I don't know if you've ever played or heard of it.
No, I've never heard of that.
So it's a BR, but it's more ancient Eastern, like Eastern Asian weapons. So like you're using staffs and spears, swords, fans, and your characters are based in like that lore. But you get these characters with special abilities. You get one ability tied to like your F key, and then one ultimate ability. But it's teams of 3 fighting to be the best. The interesting concept I really find in this is when you hit top 2, like if you're the last 2 teams left, it gives you an option to fight it out, or you both like can like leave and kind of end it at a draw, but you both win.
How often does that happen?
Not. We're all like, let's do it, but like on the off chance, yeah. I've never had that happen, and also I'm not sure how exactly that screen would come up, but I know if you hit top 2 and you lose that team fight, it says you have died with glory or honor, and then if you win it and it's like you have gained all of like the honor, it's like slight changes in the finishing screen. Right. But basically the goal is to hit top 2 if not win, because you still it seems like a victory.
What's it called?
Like either way. Naraka, Naraka, Blade Point.
When did that come out?
Release date. Google is friend. Naraka release date. August 11th, 2021.
Okay, so not too bad. Not too old.
Yeah, it's not terribly old. I didn't realize it was
busy?
2021.
Do you think there's a lot of people playing?
There's a good bit of people playing. There's a place online I can see numbers, isn't there?
Probably Twitch, but don't get caught. The art section. Beware.
Dude, I can't go to Twitch at all anymore because no matter how many. I do. I multi-stream on Twitch and Kick. The concurrent players. That's the word I was looking for. Concurrent. Steam charts. Average player. Last 30 days, they've had an average of 94,000 players.
Damn. Okay.
They were at their lowest at. Yeah, that's the last 30 days.
Yeah, that's good.
It seems like it's actually shot up, because if I go back to August, it was like 55, 64, 48. But it seems these last few months, oh yeah, that jumped. In June 2023, they're at their all-time low of 39,403.7 concurrent players. The average, not peak. Their peak was 133,315. And then the very next month, it jumped up to 78,770 average players and 264,406 peak players. And they've held steady above 80k players average for the last 3 months. Yeah. So there was definitely a shoot up. I don't know what caused that. I don't know if recent updates caused it. But yeah, no. Just under 100,000 players on average. And then peaking over 200, almost 300,000 players.
Dude, I've never heard of this game. I haven't touched a multiplayer game in so long. Well, that's not true. I've been playing a lot of Magic.
Yeah, Magic's fun.
Dude, it is fun. It is fun. Any trading card game is fun, I've decided. I knew they were, and I knew I'd enjoy it. My fear was out. I was going to get addicted to it. It's fun. It's super. It's like every time I lose, which is a lot because I'm spending $0.
Same, buddy. Same.
So every time I lose to some little bitch ass card, right? I gotta go try to craft it with crafting materials or whatever. Or I try to build a deck to try to match the deck that I just lost to every single time. It's very frustrating, but I can't, I can't build it because I don't spend any money. So I'm like trying to, well, if I can't have this card, what's a card that's similar? Like the deck building itself is, it's very addicting.
I don't know if you've been using like Google and TCG Player to find those cards too, right?
So initially, yes, but I don't have any cards. So I'm new to the game. I just downloaded it, within a month.
Yeah.
So I have to grind it out and basically get destroyed a bunch to earn free packs to try to land some of those cards to fill those decks in.
I've been playing for like Magic as a whole. I've been playing for years. I can't give you an exact number. Just like let's just say 6 to 11 years, somewhere in there. I am still horrible at deck building. I just play what I think would work in a thing, and I lose constantly. And it's I used to play black-red decks because red was really fast and would just burn people without combat, and black could give like death touch, and I could just block and send people to the graveyard. But now I play blue, and I have a lot of fun with it because, like we were talking earlier, I had that mill. The opponent was playing black-green. I had the clip. I almost sent it, but he just pulled out like 9 or 10 monsters. And I was like, man. And then I realized that my Planeswalker has an ability that you use X amount of loyalty points on it, and target player mills 3 times X from his deck. And I checked, and he had 20 cards remaining. I used all 7 loyalty points, ran the rest of them out so he could draw for the next turn, and he lost.
Yeah, that's okay. So that style of play, where it's just super cheeky, whatever you want to call it. I guess strategies. I don't know what the common terminology is yet. So if it's like, would that be called like a mill strategy?
Yeah, that deck is based on mills and discards.
Yeah, so that's annoying. One.
It's very annoying.
I also played a guy that it was if you got 10 poison counters on you, you lose the game automatically.
Oh yeah, toxic. So that's poison counters in general. Poison counters, you get 10 of those, you're done. So people will play toxic decks and toxic 1, 2, add counters, and then what those decks will also have is creatures with an ability called Proliferate, which will basically they'll do something and then you'll just gain another of a certain counter. In that case, they'll target the poison counters that you have, and then they'll just add 1 to it.
Yes, it was this bug. I specifically remember this bug. It was like some mosquito type thing. And
I have it, yeah. I think I know what you're talking about exactly.
Every time, so it added toxic counters that equal its power or something.
Ooh.
And then everything that it did, something like that. But basically, he just kept beefing this, but the game lasted maybe 4 turns. It happened so fast. But he had like these cards that would just beef up this one creature, and the amount of counters that it added was like based on the strength of the creature or something. So I was slow. I didn't pull any lands. By turn 4, I still had 2 lands, so I couldn't do much. And
yeah, the only time I enjoy seeing that,
he just wasted me. He just wasted me so fast. And I'm like, dude, if I don't have access to these types of cards, then I can't counter these types of cards. So, and I was like, man, all right, well, I gotta just like experiment and try stuff. So the black and red that you say black and red is what you're playing, or not right now, but you're playing just a pure blue right now.
I'm playing black blue actually.
Okay, I'm playing white black. No, white blue. It's like a white blue deck, and it's a bunch of soldiers. So it's just counters. It's just a ton of counters. Every card adds counters to other cards.
Yeah.
And everything gives everything else flying. So it's like a constant stream of flying soldiers, but every creature's buff basically buffs everything else on the board, which is kind of nice. So I've been playing that.
White doing white stuff.
Yeah, white doing white stuff, and then for the blues, I just stacked it with as many counters, destroy creatures, interrupts as possible. I like put all the sorcery and enchantments and auras from the blue side, all the white cards, all the creatures, and the offense. Basically, the offense is white and the defense is blue.
Yep.
And I've been trying that out, and it's not like a specific deck I found online or anything, but it seems to be working. So what I was doing, part of the reason I was sucking it up so bad, I had nothing. I was like putting way too many creatures in, and not enough spells or sorceries. Or whatever.
Yeah, sorceries, instants, enchantments. I still don't use a whole lot of enchantments and like artifacts, but I know there needs to be the certain amount of sorceries and instants to help. Otherwise, you're going to end up really monster heavy and just not have a good time.
Yeah, it seemed like every time I put something out, it would just be gone. And then they will put out, nothing crazy, just like a 2/2.
Yeah, but if you don't have anything to like
and
block,
like 3/1/1s,
just...
yeah, and then you get bled to death.
Yep.
So you put out like, I just remember fighting it was a blue-black. So what you were playing, and I think I was using red-green. I tried to do like a dinosaur theme deck or something. So I had all these giant creatures, but I could only put out one at a time because it took so much mana to tap to bring them in. So I'd put out one 12/12 dinosaur. I was like, all right, we're good. And then the moment it goes down, it's just
target creature destroyed.
Yeah, he just plays murder.
Yeah,
just murder 4 times. I'm like, okay, now I understand. Because I think as a new player, I went in and I think I get caught up in creatures really easily.
I don't know how the tutorial of the game like works, but I feel like it might not do a good job explaining like, hey, when you're like trying to build balanced decks, you need to make sure like you have a healthy balance, or like give you a ratio of what things should be. They just kind of give you these decks and say, this is roughly what it should like play like. If you try to build a deck, it should, here's like 4 to try out, and then you should get the concept from that, right?
It's like they explain the colors more than the actual deck building, but that's how it felt. It's like blue typically does this. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then it said, all right, go ahead.
Go have fun. I find a lot of the better blue creatures are definitely the higher cost, which is like true across the board. But for creatures specifically in blue, a lot of them have to be like 7-drop, and that's hard to do with blue, because green has like mana ramps where I'm going to say not half of them, but like a good chunk of the green cards can just be tapped for green mana.
Yes.
So you end up just like with this chunk of mana early game because half your creatures are like, oh, let me just help with that. Or you get these creatures that are like, cost is X amount less, where X is your number of certain type of creatures on the board.
Or number of lands.
Yeah, or number of lands.
I've been like 2-shot by a creature that gets buffed by the number.
Oh yeah, there's a card in there. It's one of the scrolls, and then that scales off of how many lands. So you get like 8-9 lands, and then there's a rhino that when you attack or defend, I want to say, is it gets +X+X, where X is the number of the strongest creature that you control.
Sick.
So it starts out as a 4/4, but if you have something like over that, it instantly gets that on top of its 4/4, and now you're swinging with whatever teen, and then they can't really do anything.
Great. Another thing that it really pisses me off, I think, is the vigilance.
Oh yeah, when they don't tap.
Yeah, it's really annoying, man. It's really annoying.
What you'll find more annoying is first strike and double strikes.
I think
those are really annoying.
I think I just get frustrated in that game because it's seemingly unlimited combinations, and you could legitimately just win one, lose one, win one, lose one, win one, lose one.
Oh yeah.
Thing. And like you're like, all right, we're in the flow state, let's go, and then the next one is like perfectly built to do like to counter you and everything in your.
And what's worse is you could play the same person like 5 times in a row, and each of you like take a win every other round. because
just because of how you drew the cards.
Yep. The only time that you're not going to find that is, I think, once we get higher up in ranks, because people are going to have, I don't know if tutor cards are banned or not, but tutor cards basically let you search your library for a specific card, and then you basically you get one for free, but it's going to be a card you need. I'm pretty sure most of them are banned in standard, so you might not have to go against that. But
I've been playing Alchemy from what I was reading, which they said off the site is the new standard. I'm just trying to like play the most recent stuff. Said like Alchemy stuff, it's constantly balanced and updated digitally.
Yeah, I think they do stuff for standard too, but I don't think there's many like changes to standard because I think their standard rules take place off of like the IRL Magic stuff. So it's however often like standard tournaments would make updates to cards, which could be a lot less. I don't know how they actually do that though. So don't don't quote me on that one either.
Yeah, so I've been trying. So the white blue, which I've liked so far. I tried to build an all lifelink, but it ended up just being too slow.
If you're doing that, you would. White can do it, but that's where you hit like your angels and your soldiers, kind of like mix the two. There's cards. There's two I'm thinking of in particular. One's a ghost, and basically while it's out in the field, every time you gain life, you get a 1/1 counter, and the other card is every time a creature enters the field under your control, you gain life.
That's
so
nice.
so you start ramping your life up, but you also start ramping your other creatures.
Yes. There's a soldier card that's like every turn you just add a 1/1 counter.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you get that, I feel it's just very it's an enchantment. It's got 3 options, and you have to pick one that you didn't pick last turn. And it's either drop a 1/1 soldier token, give a creature under your control flying and +1 perpetually, or give a creature in your hand flying +1 perpetually. And every other turn you're adding flying and +1/1, or you're just adding a random token, or you're just buffing the tokens that you're dropping.
Yeah,
it feels.
I feel like I know what you're talking, which one you're talking about, but at the same time, like that could also be like
there's so many cards.
3 of other 4 that just do the same thing.
It feels like some cards are just so overpowered for what it is. Like there's a bug that every time you draw a card, so every turn you gain 2 health and the opponent loses 2 health. That's just you don't have the creature doesn't even have to do anything. It's just on the board.
Yeah.
And that to me feels so unfair, but maybe it's not because maybe I'm just not. I don't have enough like I need to save my, destroy creature type stuff for that type of. Like I'm probably playing them too early.
I'd say prioritizing is also a big thing because you presumably, unless you've like go against an opponent who pops the same cards and you recognize really early on, like, oh, this guy's playing angels, this guy's playing werewolves, this is what I need to watch out for, this is what I need to do. You aren't going to know what they have in their deck that needs to be prioritized. So if you pop it too early to be like, oh, I get free swing because I'm popping a creature with haste, so if I destroy that, I can free swing. Next turn, he pulls out like a 6/6 brawler, and you're like, well, there goes that. It's just hard to gauge where you should prioritize, but I mean, yeah, a creature like that, I would definitely try to keep a murder in hand to do it.
You never know. But I guess that's part of like just experience, right? So if you're if you see an all black deck and you're like, all right, there's a 25% chance they have this thing. Maybe I should sit on it. Just in case, type of thing. But
or if they're playing black green, you want to hope you have like exile cards rather than cards that send you to the grave, because there are some black green decks that will play from the grave. So their goal is also to mill their life down, which is actually that game I was telling you earlier where I milled him down to 0. That was the case. He brought all of those creatures out from his graveyard because I was milling him down so much. And then he played that, and I was like, well, crap. it almost became a case of me defeating myself. I just lucked out that I had the difference of 7 loyalty counters and 6 loyalty counters, because if he would have been able to draw, he would have been able to swing, and then I would have lost.
So I also sorry, I'm just like
just kind
of hooked on this stuff right now. There's another one where my buddy Prod, actually, he's been like really hard into it. He's a diamond right now, or something, been grinding super hard. There's an ability where as long as this creature is on the field, you can't lose.
Oh, that one, yeah.
How is it allowed in normal? Like, what? He sent me a screenshot. I have it right here. He has 19 health. The other player has minus 18.
Mm-hmm.
But he can't lose. And this thing's like protected. He can't, like, it can't be, it's like warded. Like you can't get rid of it.
So I actually have a creature, I think it's in this blue deck, that specially handles those.
What are you supposed to do?
I think I shared it in the Discord at one point, but it's called Sludge Monster, and basically you give it a sludge token, and since that creature is not a sludge creature, it becomes a 2/2 and loses all of its abilities.
Okay.
It is hilarious to watch people be surprised every time. But there are counters to it.
I know, but it's just that's such a like what? Like why is that even on the table as an option?
I mean, there's also cards that I was watching, I forget it. People know it. It's like Protolarian or something. They play Magic all the time. There was one instance where somebody played a card where they couldn't lose the game, but their opponents couldn't win the game, and then somebody copied that. So then they were just in the state of like, well, 2 people absolutely can't win, but nobody else can lose. So,
what?
Yeah, it's just weird. There are just so many weird mechanics that at face value are just like, why? Why does that exist?
Why is it in the game? Exactly.
Yeah, I've thought that multiple times about a lot of things.
It just makes me. It takes me out of it sometimes. Where they'll just play this card. I just have no chance. But again, this comes back to, well, I didn't have enough spells. It was like I had too many creatures. This one too. I think you posted it. The Phyrexian Horror, or the Phyrexian Obliterator. Whenever a source deals damage to the Phyrexian Obliterator, that source has to sacrifice that many permanents depending on the amount of damage. So if you hit it for 10, you just have to clear your board of 10 cards.
Yeah, like if you buff the Obliterator, and that's not even like taking damage to your health either. That is ever a source deals damage to him.
Whatever, so if you make him a 10/10, you have to do 10 damage to it, and then you sacrifice 10 things, including lands.
I was gonna say,
what?
Let me reiterate. Whenever the source, so if you use him as a 5/5 to block a 14/14 that doesn't have trample, you are sacrificing 14 target permanents.
It's like, how is that fair? I don't know that it is.
But it also, like, now it gets this strategy of like, well, why should I attack? Because what I can do with Phyrexian is like target your smaller creatures. If you've only got 4 creatures, one's a 14/14 and the other is just a 1/1, I block the 1/1 and still get rid of your 14/14. So it's like, I think it adds one of those elements of like, I need to be a little more cautious with how I swing, because depending on what he blocks, I could end up in a worse situation.
But maybe that's just getting used to it. It's like the whole point of acquiring cards is to, like, man, I want to be the person on the other side of that. Or you drop it in confidently, and the other person has about 25 cards worth of like, get that off the table, and it doesn't even matter. It's literally the luck of the draw sometimes. But
I haven't ran into anybody that uses like cut your losses that makes you like half your library down 1 with the casualty 2, or Jenga Taxius Power Progress Tyrant. Yeah, Progress Tyrant. And Progress Tyrant, once per turn, it negates a sorcery, instant, or ability. The first one cast every turn, and
On
just
your side or their
negates it, and
side?
that's it.
Just their side?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's opponents. Let me see if I actually shared it. I feel like I did.
So every time someone casts something, it just gets rid of it. Once per turn.
Hope. Yeah, maybe it was in general. Yeah, but the other side of it is that it's when you cast something, the first thing you cast once per turn, it copies the effect, and you're allowed to choose a new target.
So if he plays murder,
Here it is. Yeah,
it
whenever you
counters
cast
that, and then you can cast murder.
yeah, whenever you cast an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for this copy. The ability only triggers only once each turn. So that's counting turns, like my turn, your turn. When it hits your turn, I can both of those re-up.
Dude.
And then whenever opponent casts an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, counter that spell. The ability triggers only once each turn. So if it's my turn, I play him, you play murder, he counters, but if I were to play murder back at you, it gets copied, and I can destroy up to 2 creatures.
You have to cast 2 spells every turn.
You don't. Okay,
or you just
reading this now.
creatures.
No, it's you don't have to. It says you may. So that's an important wording. Is very important in this game. So it says you may choose targets, but the spell does get copied. Spell gets copied regardless, but you may choose new targets. It's he is fun. I remember the first time I actually used him against a buddy of mine that was playing White Angel Life Gain, and he went to exile it, and the effect took place, and he said, "Wait a minute, why is he still on the field?" I'm like, you should probably just read his effects real quick, bud. And he's pretty salty at one. It is blue, actually.
A blue card. Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
2 blue pips plus 5 mana, so 7 drop total. It's a 5/5. And say is in general chat, but I am going to repost it in the MTG area. That way it's there.
Yeah, that thing is. And did you just pull that from a pack randomly?
I actually did.
Yeah, that's cool. Even the picture's cool. Dude, I'll tell you this much too.
I didn't pull that copy of it. I pulled like the main art copy. Yeah, but I saw that one and I'm like, I'd rather post that one because I like seeing that in Discord more.
Thing's way cooler. Dude, the art, like the. Do you think Magic the Gathering has the best art pool?
Yes, absolutely.
For trading card games?
Yes. I actually have an alternate art copy.
I wonder if they hire individual people or they say, here's the card name, and the description. Draw something and submit it.
Well, I mean, like, it all has lore behind it, too. So, like, there's a whole world of lore behind these cards as well.
God.
Like, there's books that will tell you the story of what's actually going on in, like, the world.
There's an actual story.
Yeah, there's a story behind all of it.
Is it chaotic because the world's big, or is it generally, like, pretty easy to follow?
Think of it kind of like a massive D&D world. There is a like story that goes on. So if you actually read the story, it's not going to be as chaotic. But if you just go to these drops and hear people talking, like recently I heard people talking about Phyrexia because that was the last like set that I bought, pretty sure. But they were talking about this and that, and this person doing this, and this person doing that, and going over here, and this person is no longer in it. And it was overwhelming to the point I'm like, I need to read these books so I can like figure out what actually is going on.
Have you read some of the books?
I have not yet.
Okay. Are they
not
big?
had. I imagine they're probably deep. They have to be a decent size for all the lore. I could be wrong. Somebody's gonna comment below and be like, "He's completely wrong. There's not actually a book. It's just lore pages. All you have to do is read." And I'm like,
it's just hints and like old scrolls, and you're like, all right, guy.
Yeah. But I'm like, I just know there's actual lore and a full like ongoing story with like the set drops and the releases and all of that.
Do you play in person with the cardboard?
I do, yeah.
A lot. See, I'm too afraid to buy digital cards because I'd rather have the physical cards. And I'm like kind of scared because I'm like, dude, I'm like 2 decades behind, 3 decades behind.
I go to a card shop every now and then that like everybody else went to.
Yeah.
And then if I get time, my brother's not doing anything. He invites me over, and we have 3 other buddies that play. We play Commander mostly though. If we do it at my brother's house.
Yeah. Okay. So my buddy was telling me about Commander, and like it's super popular right now.
Oh yeah.
Why is it better than standard modes?
For one, I like it more because you get one commander and 99 other cards, but none of those cards can be copies of each other. So you're not running into somebody who's just spamming 3 murders in a row to take your shit out.
Right.
They're getting creative and they're doing it with like other cards, but
so you have one commander, but what does that mean? Like, are they always on the table at the same time?
So yeah, when instead of like normal, where you just have where you put your lands, where you put your creatures, enchantments, this and that, you have what's called a command zone, and that's where your commander goes. So he is never in your deck; he stays in the command zone perpetually. You can cast him.
Okay. Can't be destroyed or removed.
Not from the command zone. If he's on the field and gets hit by effect, I do believe it goes to wherever it says. I could be wrong on that because I've never had issues. I know if he's destroyed, he goes back to command zone. I don't know what happens if he's like returned to owner's hand or exiled. I couldn't. The rules are iffy for me on that one, but you can cast him anytime from your command zone. But after the first cast, the cost goes up 2 mana every time. So if you have a 3-drop commander, you do 3. If he gets destroyed, the next time you go to summon him, it'll be 5, then 7, then 9, and so on and so forth.
So why the popularity there? Is it just because it's a new mode, or is it just because it's flat out more fun? Because you get 100 different options versus like 25 different options, but you have...
I find politicking. Because normally in Commanders, you're not playing one-on-one like you would for Standard. You are playing with 3 other people. So
1v1, v1?
Yes. And it becomes a game and it becomes this game of politics where you try to convince other people not to hit you while trying to figure out who the biggest threat is, and they're going to do the same thing. Because if you get too big of a threat, people are going to be like, we need to take him out real quick. And you're going to be like, hey, I can do this for somebody. Don't swing at me.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it does get political. It adds a whole new element of Magic, I think. On top of only having 1 copy of every card in your deck. On top of, having 100 cards instead of 60. And then there is an addition, I guess like DLC, to that, which is called Plane Chase. And basically you get these, you travel planes, and each plane gives you like a plus and a negative. Or just a plus. They tell you something new. One was, I'm trying to think of some of these cards. One was like, each creature of this type gets like a +1/+1. Or like every time you draw a card, you lose a life. But that's table-wide rules that affects everybody. And it adds...
What?
Yeah.
What makes Magic, like... I know Pokemon's the biggest, but what makes Magic... I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it feels like Magic's kind of for...
Massive?
Yeah, like, what... It's like, if you sit down at the trading card table... and you look at everyone, like the Magic. This is gonna sound stupid, I'm still gonna say it because it's the thought that came to my head. The Magic the Gathering like stud is like the cool guy at the table, maybe. Like the older guy, the more mature one. Maybe not. Is it even a matter? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying Pokemon trading card game is any less competitive or difficult. I'm not saying like Yu-Gi-Oh. It's just it feels like Magic is for. Again, I know how ironic and silly this sounds. I feel like the Magic is for adults.
No, you're not
that makes
entirely.
Sense?
Yeah, I get what you're trying to say. It's just really hard.
At this picture that you sent me of this card.
Yeah,
I'm looking at this. It's 2 paragraphs of information for one card, and every card has instructions and abilities and things. It's like very cerebral. There's so much to be thinking about at any given time. You have to see what like everything that you have to be aware of. It's like chess. You have to be aware of everything on the board, what all those abilities are, and that affects how you play your hand and vice versa.
And there, like, you also have to consider the wording. How I've always kind of described it to people is because regarding the 2 paragraphs of text, Yu-Gi-Oh players, there's an ongoing joke that Yu-Gi-Oh players just don't read their cards. They just kind of like play stuff and like stuff happens. Yeah, like they play stuff and stuff happens. That's all we know. Okay. Ongoing joke. Yeah. But so Pokemon is more like geared towards kids. Yes. They've got the shinier colors. The concept is actually really simple. Slightly different from Magic. Your energy cards for Pokemon goes to certain Pokemon, but it's not like you're sitting here with abilities and hidden abilities that are going to surprise your opponent. You attach energy cards to your Pokemon and you swing at your opponent using those energies. Yu-Gi-Oh is just, if you don't have a 1-turn kill hand as soon as you draw, I hope you enjoy watching your opponent play for the next 20 minutes and losing. That's what it's become. That is modern 2023 going into 2024 Yu-Gi-Oh. It is, if you do not draw something good firsthand, have fun watching your opponent play, and you're probably losing. Why? Magic, because the abilities and effects and the different ways Yu-Gi-Oh decided to add in summoning. So there is normal summons, there's special summons, there's fusion summons, there's Xyz summons, there's synchro summons, there's links. Exactly, yeah. There's just so many stupid ways to bring a creature out or monster out in the field, and most of those monsters are going to have crazy ass effects that either bring more monsters out, burn something, bring something back, send something away, or do something else stupid. That if you don't have the 1-turn kill, you're getting 1-turn killed for the most part.
Yeah, that's pretty annoying.
I still get videos popping up on my For You page for TikTok, and it's like, oh, look at this move, and it had to be fast forward for a 3-minute TikTok of this guy just doing a turn, and you can't even read the cards unless you pause and freeze frame and go frame by frame, and then it just ends up in them winning, and I'm like, okay, like I can't get into that anymore. Like I stopped at like the 3rd type of summon.
So then is Yu-Gi-Oh more complicated than Magic, do you think?
Yes and no. Yu-Gi-Oh is also pretty straightforward. And what I mean by that is like we were talking about wording for Magic earlier. Wording is very important. Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have as much wording. It might need to be more specific whether you're pulling cards from your grave or the deck or sending cards to the ban pile or whether something's destroyed or sent, because sent and destroyed are 2 different things in Yu-Gi-Oh. But I mean that happens in Magic too.
Well, it's
but
like
Magic,
exiled versus graveyard.
Well, yeah, it's exile, graveyard, return to hand, and then you also have to think of may, like you may do this or you do this. Those are also 2 very different effects, because one, you have to do it, and if you don't have the necessary things to do it, like if you have a card that says
you have to discard a card, but you don't have a card to discard.
Yeah, so if you don't have that to discard, you don't get to play that card because you don't have the card to discard versus may discard.
So the effect has to be able to occur.
Yes, the effect has to be able to actually occur, and there's a lot less of that in Yu-Gi-Oh. But it just seems that Yu-Gi-Oh is really just fast paced, end the game as soon as possible. but your turn's also going to take like 20 minutes to do it. I actually just passed a funny TikTok on that where somebody got like 5 turn KO'd in Magic, and the length of time it took somebody to do like 1 turn on Yu-Gi-Oh! And the whole thing was like, man, you played that during the Magic session? He's like, yeah, I just pulled a really good hand. And then on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Side, it's like, man, it took you 20 minutes just to do that? He's like, yeah, I just pulled a bad hand. It was not my fault. I'm like, that's...
I'm like fascinated. I'm fascinated too. I want to listen to somebody who's like a trading card game expert who has extensive experience in all of them, like all the more popular ones. And I just want to hear him break it down. I would love to.
I would.
Like the difference between Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon and Hearthstone, and just like where should you start? Oh, I'm sure there's a video. It's like you want to get into trading cards. Like, where do you want to start?
Yeah,
I do want to start
sure
buying physical copies after the holidays, of course, because money. But
yeah, I'm glad I get one for each paycheck this month though.
Yeah, it feels like there's real value in the physical cards, but man, you really have to make sure you actually go out and find a place to play in person.
Yeah, or have people to play with. I mean, you can do just like the buy card portion. That is definitely a thing. There are people to do that. I spent $100 on a box last time. It was $20 entry fee for draft when I last went out. Yeah, because new set I missed the set drop, but I paid $20 entry fee and ended up drafting a card that's worth $10-11.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like I could have, if I didn't really enjoy the card that much, I could have went and resold it and got like money back and only had $10 for my entry fee for draft that night.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, man, we're over an hour here, hour 6 minutes here.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, sorry to cut it short, but I got to get out of here pretty soon. But let the people know. Good. Yeah, man, let the people know where they can find you, what you're working on, projects.
You can find me in my mother's basement, streaming and making YouTube videos. Well, YouTube shorts. I've been more into shorts than videos. We'll save that for another podcast, though. You can find me on Twitter, TikTok. Those are you can find me on Twitter at DeepBoyZeho. You can find me on YouTube at Imp0str, Imp0str. If you have issues with any of them, the link will be in the link tree down below. And then if you want to hear me do another podcast with 3 other people, you can go check out the Creamcast on YouTube.
Yes. The Creamcast. What's that from again? How'd you guys name it?
So we were actually in a group chat and we're like, man, we'd be great together. We'd be like the dream team, but terrible at video games. And they're like, yeah, but we can make all kinds of dirty jokes. We're like, ha, so the Creamcast, or the Cream Team. And that's where Cream Team came from. And we just didn't want to drop the cream portion.
That's exactly where I thought it might come from. That's exactly what I thought it meant.
Yep, that was exactly it.
Well, cool, man. Thanks for letting me nerd out on Magic for so long, and I really do appreciate your time and hanging out. And we'll for sure do this in the future and do another episode.
Oh, it sounds good to me. I enjoyed it.
Awesome, man. Well, as always, guys, you can find me at Ghost Stories Gaming or Ghost Plays Games on all things socials. Right now, just doing game reviews and Let's Plays. Currently working on It Takes Two. And playing a lot of MTG, trying to grind those virtual cards. But I'll see you guys on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening. There's Unplugged Podcast. We'll catch you on episode 23.
Bye-bye.